Now, as we are done with background, foreground and all the stock images, we add touch and burn tool as well as we create lightning effects on our image. It's perfect time to add some effects, some filters. And here's a link. I'd like to say a few things, because basically for me personally, the best way at the moment, since I started to use plugins to add any additional effects, it's really great to use plugins. I love to use plugins. I prefer them more than creating my own effects in Photoshop. But in this case, I think it would be not fair for people which prefer still using only Photoshop, for example, which not really huge fans of plugins. I believe the number of these people is getting lower right now, because I think more people decided to use plugins these days, which are really helpful, and the effects that they have to offer are really great. But in this part, I will show you two ways about create really nice, warm summer effect, which of course you can do everything in Photoshop using layers, using photo filters, using gradient maps, using levels, curves, which I'm not going to use. I'm not a huge fan in this kind of manipulation to use levels of curves, as I believe they might be a little bit destructive for the image. So I'm going to show you two ways about adding filters and effects to our image. And at first I'm going to use some photo filters, some gradient maps, and after this I'm going to show you the same method but using plugin produced by Google, which is called Nick Collection, and Color FX Pro, which in my opinion is really great. But let's start from the beginning. Let's be focused on our filters and effects, which I'm going to use few and keep them even if I use plugin. But for those of you which doesn't like to use plugins, you can stay totally with Photoshop and it's totally fine. So at first I still think this image is a little bit colder, and I feel the atmosphere of the image is kind of holiday atmosphere, kind of sunny summer atmosphere. So the thing we have to do with this image, we have to create this atmosphere, and it's really easy way to do this. Click the small icon on the bottom and simple tool called photo filter. And in this case, the first filter that coming out, which is warming filter, for me works really great. I think it's my favorite filter. So as you see, we have few options. I think the first one, it's actually the best, but maybe I'm going to use this a little bit more yellowish color. And as I said, I'm going to show you only this example. So for now, the settings are if you decide to use only Photoshop. And the second tool, which I'm going to use to do different kind of color effects into image, is gradient maps. I use gradient maps nearly in every retouch, in every photo manipulation, and in every photo effect I'm going to use. So let's go to gradient maps. I'm going to call this warm. Then go to gradient map and select gradient map you'd like to. Of course, we have a lot of offers from Photoshop, but I recommend you to try with your own settings. And with every kind of manipulation, the greatest settings is to compilation of two colors, the colors of blue as a shadows and color of yellow, orange as a highlights. Let's try with this soft blue color as a shadows on the left side, and going to the right side to highlights. As you can see, I'm going to use some kind of soft yellowish color, exactly like this. Change blend mode. You can use soft light. As you can see, soft light gives you a little bit of contrast, a really interesting effect if you'd like to keep this. Or you can use change blending mode to color and take down opacity. It's very similar. Soft light actually changing a little bit, adding us, I think, some contrast. And I'd like to be aware about anything destructive. I will change this for color for now and change opacity very low, around 20%. As you can see, it makes our picture a little bit colder, but it gives us as well a little bit of a mysterious color. If it's too cold, we can every time we can change this, as you can see. So basically you can use color whatever you like and change this in every moment. And next part, I'm going to stay gradient. And next part, which I'm going to skip every time I'm using plugins, but as you can see, after we add some effects, after we add some color effects, we need some contrast as well. And there's few ways to get some contrast levels, brightness and contrast, which I'm not really recommend, or curves. So you can try a little bit work with curves to make it maybe a little bit darker. Just cross process this image a little bit. And as you can see, we add some really nice contrast, some lights, and it works really great. So that's the part. If you decide to do to not use any plugin, any effect, that's really great. Great way to do this. If the curves are too strong, of course you can always change opacity, but I think the colors are really good. And of course, if they are not strong enough, you can always add more warm color. As you can see, it looks maybe even more color. As you can see, as you probably won't use any plugin, you can if you not use any plugin, you can add more colors. If you want to use plugin, be really careful with colors. I prefer to be really careful because I'm going to use a plugin. I show you how great this might look. As you can see, it looks really interesting, and that's how could our final result looks like. Of course, it's not our final result. Even after I use another plugin, it's not our final result, but the way it looks right now, it's really great. So okay, but the other thing is, if you have any plugin, there's few plugins. You can use Neat Collection, you can use Perfect Effects free, or you can try a trial version. If you don't want to buy any plugins, you can always try with trial version, or you can use free plugins, many interesting effects, and of course it gives you just another opportunities to edit your images. So I want to be really careful with curves, so I'm going to take down a little bit filter. Okay, as well as warm filter I'm going to take down a little bit because I prefer to be really careful with this. And about curves, of course, I will take this down as well, because I'm going to add some additional effects. I'm going to use plugins right now, so make sure that's the way you want your image looks like. After you add every effect, right now you want put all of this to one group. As I said before, don't forget about the rules, keep everything in order. Control G or Command G, and this group I'm going to call effects, photo effects. There you go. Of course, these two parts we don't have in the group. To make it look a little bit nicer, we can put this into the group, of course. Control G. So before I'm going to use plugin, I want to sort out everything. I'm thinking if I should put this to the one group, or actually it's fine to leave like this, as we save some space. But I'm going to put this into one group. Control G. I'm going to call this image, as that was the point where we finish with our composing. Maybe this name isn't really universal, but it helps us to keep with order, as we have touch and burn. So we have these two things that gives that separate this composition from the effects. I'm going to call this it will be more clear for us. Okay, so as you see right now, everything is in order once again, and now it's time for plugins. So the last part will be about plugins, about our final touch.